Hi YouTube, it's Kathy, and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for August 11th through 17th. This week I read 3 books, I watched 2 shows, and I listened to 3 books. First I finished The Accidental Beauty Queen. This is a book I originally saw over on You're a Book Nerd Zoe's channel, and then I saw it in person at my library and went, hey, Zoe was talking about this, and I kind of wanted something brain candy-ish, so I picked it up. This book is about twins Charlotte and Ginny. Charlotte is our protagonist and she's a children's librarian, and her sister Ginny is a pageant queen. Charlotte decides to take a vacation to Orlando to visit her sister while she's at this pageant, but mostly go to Harry Potter World. But Ginny ends up eating something and having this allergic reaction to it that makes her face swell up, so she can't compete in the pageant show. And the doctor she sees makes some offhanded comment about why don't they just switch places. So of course that's what this book is. This was pretty fun for the most part, although I found it kind of annoying that every time there was a Harry Potter reference, the author felt like they needed to explain the reference as though it's not something that people know about. Yes, we know that Slytherins are the cunning house. Yes, we know. But other than that, this was exactly what I wanted out of this book. It was cute, it was fluffy, it had a couple of hard-hitting moments between these sisters and they grew as people, and there was a romance involved, so it was nice. Speaking of something that was just kind of nice, I did a buddy read of The Wedding Party by Jasmine Guillory with my friend Madeline from Novel Inc. If you haven't seen her channel before, you should definitely check it out. I will link it down below. She's been inactive for a little while, but she's coming back fairly soon. This is the 3rd in the companion novel series, starting with The Wedding Date, and then The Proposal, and now The Wedding Party. I'm not going to ruin who the ship in this book is because it's 2 side characters that we've met previously in the book series. And this very quickly goes from them hating each other to having sex with each other within the first couple of chapters of the book. They then decide that they are going to continue these secret rendezvous until a certain point in the future, at which point they'll just stop. Obviously, being a romance, I'm sure you know where this goes. When Madeline and I were discussing this book, we didn't really have that much to talk about besides it was something that was nice and light, and yes, there were a couple of conflicts because there always are, but there wasn't so much to really get super attached to. We liked the characters, we liked seeing the previous characters from the other books as well, but it was just something that was just kind of nice. I mostly just spent a lot of time wanting to tell these buttheads to just realize that they like each other because that would make their lives so much easier. The other book I read this week was Ironside. This is part of the Fairy-a-thon read-along where we're reading all of Holly Black's works. And this is the 3rd in the Modern Fairy Tale trilogy. These books you might remember from me talking about the 2 previous ones are from the early 2000s, so they are different from what YA is now. For example, the main character smokes, and that's just a weird thing that doesn't usually happen in YA anymore. Going into this, because I didn't know anything about the 3rd book, I thought we were going to have a whole new protagonist, but we went back to having the same protagonist as the 1st book, and then characters from the 1st and the 2nd books kind of intermingled. There were some high stakes, there was some betrayal, there was some hard feelings, there was a bunch of all of that type of stuff, but it didn't really stick with me. I enjoyed reading it just fine, but it's not something that I feel like I can rave about. And obviously being the 3rd in a series, just like the last book, there's not too much I can tell you about it. On to what I watched this week, of course we are watching the 22nd season of Survivor, which is Redemption Island. The funniest thing to come out of this week is that when the tribes merged, Rob said, hey, I know this word that in Spanish means something or other about the sea. Let's use that as our tribe name. And they were like, oh yeah, that sounds beautiful. But in reality, it's the name that his wife is given to a stuffed animal they have back home, and he just basically did it so that she would laugh her ass off, and I loved that. It was hilarious. It's a lot of fun to see Boston Rob back, which makes me excited for the next season, which is season 39, I'm pretty sure, because he will be there in some form of mentor capacity. This week my roommate and I also started the 3rd season of Glow, and yesterday I realized that Bash is not played by Zac Efron, even though that's what I've been thinking for 2 and a part seasons. Apparently I'm not the only person on the internet that made that mistake, but yeah. Also, I know this guy from private practice, so I don't know why I messed that up so badly, but there you have it. Also, my best friend texted me in a tizzy going, how did I not realize that Britannica is played by Kate Nash? And I was like, is that singer we used to listen to in Ireland a decade ago? And she's like, yes. I'm like, I was wondering about that because I kept seeing the name in the credits, but I was too lazy to look it up. It was also harder to put together because the character of Britannica cannot sing and Kate Nash is a singer, so there you have it. I'm enjoying this new setting in the 3rd season, and it was very interesting that the 2nd episode didn't have any wrestling whatsoever. Next, I listened to Sky Without Stars, which is a retelling of Les Miserables set in the future on a different planet, which is exactly why I wanted to read it. I think we know by now that I'm not particularly drawn to reading classics, but this is actually a classic that I have read because I did the musical back in 2002, so I read the entire book, even though the only part I played in the musical was whore number 1. This thespian likes to read the source material. I thought that this was incredibly inventive. I liked the 3 different point of view characters we got. We got essentially the Eponine character, whose name is Jasmine, but she goes by Tomo because she pretends to be a boy so she won't be harassed while she's in the market trying to scrounge up money. We got the Marius character, which is Marcellus. He's the grandson of the general that basically leads the army on this planet. And then we have the Cosette character, whose name was Alouette. She and her father have been hiding with these sisters in this underground bunker under the city, basically keeping this library for as long as she can remember. Something I really liked about reading this first book in this series, because it is going to be a series, which it kind of annoys me because I just wanted to have the whole story, but that's fine. Since I've read the source material and I lived the musical for a good few months of my youth, I know a lot of different details, so I could quite easily see these little things that were coming. For example, it said that Jatine's little brother was killed when he was very, very young, but then there's this street rat character later who goes by the name of Roche, and I'm just like, well, that's clearly the Gavroche character, so like that's going to be something later in the series. And just little nods to the original, such as the Jean Valjean character has been going by Hugo all this time, as in Victor Hugo. There was something about the audiobook that kept bothering me though. There were all these different instances where they were talking about things in either kilometers or centimeters or meters or anything like that, but every time they used one of those words, they would say it with a French accent, which is very annoying because yes, meter, M-E-T-R-E, is a word in French, but it is also a word in UK and Canadian English. I didn't have access to a print copy, so I didn't know if they were italicizing those words in the print copy as well, and maybe that's why the direction was given, but even if they were italicizing in the print copy, that's super annoying because those are English words as well. Also, this book used the word stupide in every chapter probably multiple times in every chapter, and yes, I can see pronouncing that ableist slur in a French accent because it has the E at the end of the word, but pronouncing English words that also appear in French with the exact same spelling in a French accent became very annoying. As a side note, the person that read the Marcellus chapters was Vikas Adam, who has appeared in 3 audiobooks I've listened to recently, so good for you, Vikas. It just seems like every other audiobook I'm like, oh, read by Vikas Adam, cool. Next I listened to Quiet by Susan Cain. This was a reread for me because my book club was reading it and I figured I should just brush up on it because I read it a few years ago, which mostly meant that I listened to it on double speed the day of the book club because I forgot that I meant to reread it. This is a book about introverts, which is something I very much am and had no idea was a thing until somewhere in my 20s. Being an introvert is something I heavily identify with to the point where I used to make videos on this channel called Ask an Introvert, so I will leave that playlist up here and down below. Finally, this week I also listened to A Very Large Expanse of Sea because my friend Sajid has been screaming from rooftops about it, so I knew it was gonna be good. This takes place about a year after 9/11 and centers an American Muslim girl. Her and her family move around a lot because every time her dad gets a promotion, they go to a new town, so she's been to 12 different schools in 10 years. And because she chooses to wear the hijab, she has heard all sorts of nonsense things from people at all times always. This has understandably made her a very guarded person, so she just tries to keep her head down and not interact with people at school, because on any given day she'll have to listen to 17 different racist things they've just said. This kind of starts to change when this cute white boy from her biology class keeps wanting to talk to her. There's a decent amount of nostalgia in this book for me because this character is about the age that I was at that time. Although she preferred AOL Instant Messenger and I definitely used the Microsoft Instant Messenger. I was also quite shocked that her family was described as kind of lower income, but they had cell phones. I definitely didn't have a cell phone in 2002. I didn't get a cell phone until I was in college and I was 20 years old. But I do remember people talking about how expensive text messages were, so that was definitely a thing that was worked into this book. This was both a beautiful and heartbreaking love story, and Sajid was right to be screaming it from rooftops because everybody should read it. It's summer and I'm starting to get really sweaty because I had to turn off the fan, so that's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!